And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment of Cowboy State Politics Live. From very high above all the puerile and insipid bombastic twits in the Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Wednesday. I'm joined in the studio by my partner in crime, Mr. Harry Pollock. Morning, Harry.
Hey, good morning, David. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So how you been doing, man?
I'm doing good. Shoveling a lot of snow, walking the dog in the cold temperatures.
Now, why would you want to do that?
Sun. Why would I want to do? Well, you have a dog. You don't want him messing in the house.
Fair enough. Yes, I get it. Anyway, so Harry's joined the program, and he's just going to be my sidekick today. We've got a number of topics to talk about. Donald Trump in the news. I mean, as he should be. I mean, he's about to be the 47th president of the United States, but he's making news all over the place, man.
Yes, he is. He's making news. He is making sound, and he's doing negotiations.
Well, we're going to get into that. Harry's referring to Greenland. He and I have a very different view on that, but we're going to talk about that. Now, if you're watching on the Ditto Cam, you'll notice a couple of different things. To make sure you could see Harry's pretty little face, I had to turn on a light in the studio, so that's why things look a little bit different. But, as you know, on Cowboy State Politics, it's always a work in progress. So, got to try new things. Also, if you want to be part of the program, I have the phone lines open. The phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. That's 307-374-8989 if you want to call and be part of the program. We'll keep the phone lines open through the entire program. If there's something on your mind that you want to ask me or Harry, go ahead and give us a call. One more time, that phone number is 307-374-8989. We begin this morning, and maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't, Harry, but we begin with old Zuckerberg, and he says that he's not going to censor people anymore. You believe him?
Fake book. No, I don't believe him.
No, why would you say such a thing?
Well, I've been shadow banned, I've been blocked, I've been turned off, so no, I don't believe him. I think he's got something else up his sleeve.
Well, I think you're right about that, and there's a ton of people that I'm sure everybody at least one person that's been thrown in Facebook jail or shadow banned, or I think everybody probably knows somebody, or maybe it's happened to them. But old Zuck, he's decided that he's going to cozy up to the right. Now, this is something that we should probably talk about because we're about to see it in the Wyoming legislature. Whenever Republicans win, then everybody wants to be a Republican. And we've seen, it's not just Zuckerberg, but, Jeff Bezos, a lot of people, they've decided they're going to donate millions of dollars to Trump's inauguration. So what are they doing, Harry? Have they turned over a new leaf, or are they just cozying up to the popular kids?
Oh, they're just cozying up. They're looking for new supporters. They're trying to figure out how they can better hedge what's going on in the world. And profit from it.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see here. I believe this one's from Just the News, and I quote, Mark Zuckerberg isn't the most popular person. Some consider him a self-directed oddball, rightfully savaged by the likes of South Park. Absolutely justified. I mean, Zuckerberg's an idiot, if you ask me. While others see an opportunist who engaged in censorship when it suited him, changing colors only out of fear of retaliation. Others can sort that out. For now, his comments feel significant, both as confirmation of... Oh, God, Lord. This thing is from Politico. No wonder why they love Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep, got to go with that leftist.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Everybody has heard, I'm assuming most people have heard about Zuckerberg Bucks. And basically what he did is he set up a nonprofit to allegedly increase voter turnout. And really what it was is an effort to get Democrats elected. Now, it's true that he did donate to both Republicans and Democrats, but it's the amount, the ratio, I guess that's a good way to put it, between how much he gave to the Democrats and how much he gave to Republicans is vastly different. I mean, the vast majority of his $1 billion, which I think that he donated something like $900 million to the 2020 election. Most of that went to Democrats. And it's in Democrat counties to increase Democrat turnout so that Sleepy Joe this guy.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Yeah, that guy. The only reason he did that is so that Joe Biden would get elected. Well, now he said that, this whole censorship thing, really, Harry, it was a mistake. And, we only censor people because we felt bullied by the FBI. That's why we claimed that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. I'm assuming you knew that was fake?
Of course. Everybody knew it was fake. Of course, all the porn and all the drug, all the videography on it wasn't so fake after all.
No. Turns out that it was all true. And Facebook is engaged in a boatload of censorship. So if Zuckerberg's words sound familiar, it may be because speech advocates have been singing that tune for a long time. That big platforms like Facebook, before Elon Musk bought X, which was then... I'm so sick of hearing people say X, formerly known as Twitter. We all know that it was formerly Twitter. Why the heck do we have to keep saying that?
Why do you have to keep saying it? It's kind of like, what was that artist, Prince, formerly known as that symbol?
Yeah, but that's different, right? The guy changed his name to a symbol. You can't really say...
Musk did it because he wanted to change and actually he wanted to make sure that everybody's speech was allowed and honoring the Constitution of the First Amendment. And I think maybe changing it from Twitter to X just kind of gave it a different viewpoint and sort of fresh cover, if you will.
Okay, so are you on X?
I have an account. I don't really use it, to be honest with you.
As a journalist, I've found that if you want the most, I want to say up-to-date news, go look at X. Now, you got to be careful because there's a lot of things that masquerade as news, much like the cow pie and the Pravda on the Platte. They call themselves journalists, but really what they are is, partisan hacks. So we're saying that, speaking, getting back on topic, so we're saying that Zuckerberg, he's not being genuine, huh?
No, I don't think so. I think he's lying for actual gain.
All right. Well, from the Babylon Bee, the guy who said Facebook was not suppressing free speech announces that Facebook will stop suppressing free speech. And I quote, social media users rejoiced today as in an initiative to fight back against censorship. The guy who said Facebook was not suppressing free speech announced that Facebook would stop suppressing free speech. Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg released a video statement outlining the upcoming changes that will be made to content restriction policies on Facebook and Instagram, revealing that Facebook would stop suppressing all the free speech he had previously insisted wasn't being suppressed on Facebook. Quote, this is a major shift towards no longer doing the things that I said we weren't doing, Zuckerberg said in a statement. While we never suppressed free speech and expression on Facebook, we felt that the election of 2024 was a cultural pivot point that made it clear that we had to stop suppressing free speech and expression, even though we absolutely never did it. Starting now, we're going to stop doing it. But
Stop doing something that they've never done before. Good luck.
right, but I think that the Babylon Bee is it's one of those outlets that points out the obvious, right? And they've been right on a lot of stuff way before it happened. I don't know. Do you follow the Babylon Bee at all?
I don't.
You really should, man. I mean, you need to get a little bit of humor in your life. I mean, always so serious. But Babylon Bee, I love them. And I mean, its irony points out the truth of a lot of things. And I think that it's an excellent tool. And I think this is a perfect example. Well, let's go ahead and take a call. We got Jerry Jackson from Rock Springs on the phone, and we'll see what Jerry's up to. Jerry, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you.
How are we going? How's things going today, man? What's on your mind?
It's cold, but it's going good. And I was just thinking about Iceland, and I don't know enough about that, but I believe annexing Iceland would be a great idea.
Oh, you mean Greenland?
Wait and see yes, Greenland. Wait and see what happens with Canada and what goes on there. And Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I think the man's scared. And when you're scared, you don't know what they're going to do. And some never grow up, so I don't know if Zuckerberg's capable or not.
Well, what do you? I mean, in your estimation, Jerry, what do you think that Zuckerberg has to be scared of? I mean, he's a gajillionaire, and I mean, he could probably buy Greenland if he wanted to. And what does he have to be scared of?
Well, I think he's scared of Musk and the people that are backing Trump.
All right, fair enough. I mean, Harry and I are going to talk about this Greenland thing a little bit later on in the broadcast. But let me just ask you, do you think Trump's serious about, Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal?
I've been seeing in some of the groups, I help moderate a couple of groups, conservative groups on Facebook. And I've been seeing stuff for 3 or 4 years on, the things that's going on in Greenland. And I think it's very serious. There's a lot of information out there that has been passed around that, only a historian could tell you about, all the way back to World War II when they first thought about purchasing, Greenland.
Well, it's an interesting little chunk of land because it's controlled by Denmark, and Denmark really doesn't let the people that live in Greenland, exploit their resources or really do really anything. And so it's a bit like the American colonies back before our revolution, a country that's all the way across the pond, controls the place that you live in, and really you don't have a say in anything. And so, I mean, I think it's interesting. I personally think that he's at least halfway serious.
And Denmark. I think Denmark's being controlled as far as Greenland goes by China. I believe China, from what I've seen and read, made $500 billion on lithium out of Greenland so far, and that's a lot of money. Huh? There they got people that's depending on them.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. And like I say, Harry and I are going to dive into this here in a little bit. But anyway, Jerry, appreciate the call, and you have a good afternoon, man.
And hello, Harry.
Well, hello, Jerry.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, if you want to be part of the program, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. Whatever's on your mind, go ahead and give us a call. It's during the week, and really, we have to talk about what you want. I mean, you have to talk about what we want to talk about. I mean, this is a Dave-tatorship, and if we don't want to talk about what's on your mind, we may just ignore it. But you may as well give it a try. Go ahead and give me a call. 307-374-8989 is the phone number in the studio. Well, there's the bumper music. Let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this global instability that Trump is allegedly creating. Greenland, Panama Canal, maybe buying Canada. Who knows, man? But we'll do it after the break. You are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live on the Independence Network. You're not going to find a better source of news, information, and entertainment than right here on the Independence Network. Now, we're making a few changes, moving a couple things around, out with the old and in with the new, and that whole spiel. Of course, you could listen to my program, The Ramble Room with Ken Pendergraft, Locked and Loaded with the good Representative Tony Locke from Casper. There's a whole bunch more coming on the Independence Network. Also, don't forget to check out the articles section at the website, independencenetwork.us. It's loaded with op-eds, commentary, and news from all around the Cowboy State. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics Live on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, on Rumble, and of course, the Cowboy State Politics podcast. It's almost like I'm omnipresent. Of course, I'm documented to be almost always right. I redid the numbers last night, Harry. 98.97% of the time, I'm absolutely right. And it's easy to do. All you got to do is do your homework and check your sources, which is something that the mainstream media just never does, especially the cow pie. They're most of the time, if you want to know the exact opposite of what's happening, well, read the cow pie. They're pretty good at that. And there's a reason why I call them the cow pie. Did you know, Harry, that there was a study done? Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm joined by my partner in crime today, Harry Pollack. Harry is a member of the Sheridan GOP, done a lot of work with him. And I figure, he didn't have anything to do this morning. And so I said, well, why don't you come join the program? So, welcome to the program, Harry.
Thank you, David. This has been fun. It's an interesting process being the sidekick today.
Yeah.
And seeing myself on screen and going through this whole thing with you.
Yeah. Well, it's, this is an interesting time. We're past the time when legacy media controls everything. For a long time, the only media in Wyoming was the Pravda on the Platte, the Red Star Casper Tribune, and your local paper. But the truth is that almost every paper in the state of Wyoming is entirely liberal. And you've been in the Sheridan Press.
A lot, and they're very rarely ever fair to you. No, actually, I don't think they've actually really ever been fair to me. I mean, the first 6 months we lived here, I think I was in the paper at least 6 times. Well, at least you didn't waste any time. No, just jumped right in. Well, anyway, so the time of legacy media is over. I think the 2024 election proved that. A lot of folks are attributing Trump's win, or, to a large degree, his win, because he went on a number of different podcasts. He engaged with people that maybe you wouldn't normally engage with. Now, of course, Joe Rogan, he's in a category all to himself. I mean, the Joe Rogan Experience is the biggest podcast in the world. Millions of followers, millions of listeners. In fact, I think that the Trump interview, it got listened to like 90 million times or something like that. So Joe Rogan, I mean, he is a media empire all his own. But if you look at just Wyoming, I mean, Wyoming is a microcosm of
a lot of different things nationally. But there are a number of independent voices that are cropping up, doing different podcasts. The Cowboy, they've got a morning show now, which I really have a hard time listening to that thing. It's terrible. But anyway, independent voices, man. How much? As I mentioned, you're pretty involved with the Sheridan GOP. You guys have a blog, right?
We do. Yeah, it's controlled from our communications team.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is, so there was and I don't really want to talk about this post at all. I think it's been beat to death, but there was kind of a ill-advised post that was put on the Sheridan GOP.
Off color.
Yeah, off color. Okay, I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it. Yeah. But it was posted, and it took like 30 seconds for Wyopile to start calling Brian Miller and asking him about. So 30 seconds. That means that the media, the mainstream media, they watch independent sources really, really close.
Yeah, they're looking for, what did you say? In politics, it's sound bites and photo ops.
Yep.
And so they're looking for the deeds, and if they got them on you, they want to exploit them. Exactly
right. And I think that we're living in a pretty exciting time. If you want to be a broadcaster, or if you want to be some sort of social media influencer, all you got to do is start an account. And it really is like the free market. It is the free market. If you're good at what you do, if you work hard, if you put out a good product, people will consume it. And I think you can use Cowboy State Politics as a perfect example of that. I mean, I started with a crappy Family Dollar headset microphone at my kitchen table. And then, in 4 months, I was interviewing the governor and the representatives in Congress. And I mean, the program just exploded. And I mean, it went from nothing to something really, really fast. So I personally think this is a great time.
Well, when you had a conservative approach, when everything around a supposed to be conservative state is liberal, people were hungry for the truth, and you provided to them. And congratulations for that. Well, 350,000 plus downloads now?
Oh, I think it's like 315,000. But I mean, okay. Who's counting now, really? All right. Well, let's get back to some of the news.
Sure.
I've got a piece here from Breitbart, and it's Democratic Representative McBride. I don't know who she is. I don't really care who she is. But she's saying that Trump is fostering more instability globally. And let's just start with the headline first. Do you think that's the case, Harry?
No, not at all.
Why?
Well, look, he's a mogul. He's built empires. He's lost, and then he's rebuilt. He was our 45th president. Now he's going to be our 47th president. He's not afraid to go to the mat with you. And so, no, I think he's on the right track, and he's going to do good things.
Okay, well, I absolutely agree with you, and I don't think that he's causing. I personally don't think that you could cause any more instability in the world right now.
No.
I mean, it's Israel is fighting, I would say, a 6 or a 7 front war, depending on how you look at it. Iran, they're really close to having nuclear weapons. Economies across the globe are faltering, and I think if you look at how quickly world leaders started contacting Donald Trump when he was elected, I think the rest of the world looks at Donald Trump as, and this might be paradoxical, but I think that a lot of world leaders view Donald Trump as a source of stability, even though he says some of the craziest stuff.
He has no filter.
And I love it.
Well, and he says what's on his mind. Doesn't mix words. And if you think about, you talked about world leaders already contacting him, working with him, getting in touch with him since he was elected. Look at Trudeau.
Oh, yeah.
He bailed.
Oh.
He jumped off a sinking ship.
Okay, so I happen to have that soundbite, but first I want to play you what this McBride person, sure. I don't even know who she is, but let me just play you the audio of what she said on PMS. No, I think it was on CNN. Yep, it was on CNN with Wolf Blitzer. Here's what she said.
He's open to using the U.S. military to potentially seize the Panama Canal and Greenland as well, which is part of Denmark. Sources close to Trump say he's very serious about this. What's your reaction to that?
Well, this is typical bluster from the president-elect. This obsession with Greenland and Panama really came out of nowhere and has been filled with mistruths and misunderstandings. I don't understand why this president is so committed at a time of global instability, of fostering more instability globally, of undermining our allies, and at the same time, diverting the attention of our federal government toward issues like...
Right. I can't take it anymore. Ramble. So, again, the Democrats are trying to paint Donald Trump as this guy who's just fostering instability the world over. Now, I want to take you back in the Wayback Machine, back to 1979, 1980. There were American hostages being held at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, and they had been there for hundreds of days. I don't even know how many. Well, the Iranians released them the day that Ronald Reagan was inaugurated. I mean, this is such a softball question, but I'll go ahead and ask you, Harry. Why did they do that?
Fear.
Fear? Fear of what?
Fear of the might of the United States military and Ronald Reagan, who was willing to go to the mat.
Yeah.
And I think that you're going to have the same thing with Trump.
I think you're already seeing it. Right now we have American hostages that have been held in Gaza for I don't know how many days.
Over a year now. It's 400 days.
Well, let's see here. It was October 7th of last year, right?
365 plus another.
Yeah. So, it was.
Yeah, so it's over 400 days.
Over 400 days, right? And Donald Trump, during his press conference yesterday, which I really tried to get sound bites from it because that press conference was amazing. I promise you, I will get sound bites for tomorrow's show. I absolutely loved it. Well, anyway, during the press conference, he basically said that all hell was going to break loose if the American hostages weren't released. Now, I don't think that that's creating more instability. In fact, what I see that as is you better shape up or I'm going to bomb you into the Stone Age.
He's telling you what he's going to do without telling you. And, take the clue.
Yeah, and I think that this goes to the core of conservatism. See, there's a difference between one of the big differences between redcoats, Democrats, and conservatives is peace through strength. That with Joe Biden, I was thinking about this yesterday. Joe Biden says to Iran, "Don't do anything." Well, who cares what Joe Biden says? So Iran launched a bunch of missiles at Israel. They've been supporting the Palestinians and the Hezbollah, and I mean they're the chief sponsor of terror. Joe Biden's word did nothing.
No.
So what's the big difference between what Biden says and what Trump says?
So when Trump says something, he means it, and he doesn't go back on his word. His history of explaining and doing, telling his business partners or associates what he's going to do, he means it. He just goes out for it. He gets it. He moves on.
All right. So since he says what he means and he means what he says, let's talk about Greenland. What do you think? Do you think he's serious about buying Greenland or taking it over?
So we were talking about this before the show, and I think it's more about negotiation. I do see there's a possibility of having U.S. control for our borders and for the protection of the United States, but there's also other elements to it, and I think that's what you're going to be talking about.
Well, the truth is that Trump is not the first president to talk about Greenland. Several presidents have. This is not the first time that Donald Trump has mentioned maybe buying Greenland or taking it over. I don't think that there's any invasion planned. I think Trump is a businessman.
That's a big island, and there's resources.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's chock full of resources. It's a huge chunk of land, and honestly, acquiring Greenland would bolster the United States as national security. I mean, I do think that that it would be a major boon to that. But I really think that at least half-heartedly, Donald Trump is serious about it. I don't think that something as big as Greenland, that you continue mentioning it if you're just talking out of your behind. I don't think that that's the case.
It's that in the Panama Canal, and I think more to the Panama Canal, it's the control that China has over it. He wants to relieve China of their control of the Panama Canal and take it back.
That one's kind of a different situation, I think, and it's got an economic component to it too.
Sure.
Panama has been charging United States ships exorbitant amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars for one ship to go through the Panama Canal, and other countries, they're charging them a pittance by comparison. Panama Canal is leaking. They've not kept it in good repair. And of course, the United States paid for it. So that one there, I see that as a little bit different. Now, of course, Panama is saying, over our dead body. Really, what are you going to do? The fascinating part of it is Panama, and I read an article, and I can't remember, I should have printed it off, but I can't remember where I saw it. But anyway, that the Panama Canal is in disrepair, and they're asking the United States for money to fix it. Well, why are we going to fix something that
doesn't belong to us?
Well,
and that we're already paying exorbitant amount of fees to traverse through.
Exactly. Take our hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're charging us and maybe fix the Panama Canal. So I see Greenland and Panama as two different issues. I see Greenland as kind of a, man, wouldn't it be great if we had that? And here's how we could do it. And maybe I'll give it the old college try and see if I can get it. It's maybe, to use an awkward metaphor, you're driving around town and you see a pickup that's really sharp. And it's, that it's probably out of your price range. But you keep thinking to yourself, man, that'd be pretty hot. Square-bodied Chevy in really good shape. Yeah, maybe I could buy that. And so you call the guy and you say, well, here, I'll make you an offer. And it's kind of, they're going to take it or leave it. But if you really want it, well, that you've already got more cash in your pocket. So you never use all your ammunition all at one time. So I see that as a similar situation to Greenland. Panama Canal I think is in a different area simply because we have to pay to use it. We paid to build it. It's in disrepair. It's being used by China as a strategic, club against the United States. So I see that one as kind of a different critter. What about you?
No, I can see your point. At the end of the day, on the 20th, we're going to find out, what Trump does in the next 100 days. Once he takes office, then we'll know for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't see any reason why. And actually, we may not have to wait that long because he's already making moves, which is an interesting historical note too. He's pretty much already the president.
Acting as if.
More after the break. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on the Independence Network. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Cowboy State Politics is sponsored by FreedomGoldUSA.com. They are the working man's gold company. The economy is in turmoil. The stock market pretty much is out of control, and you never know what's going to happen with your finances or your income. One way that you can shore up everything is by investing in gold and silver. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/David for a free interview to discuss your options and find out if gold or silver is right for you. One more time, that's freedomgoldusa.com/David. Welcome back to Cowboy State Politics Live with David Iverson. That's me, your illustrious host, and our good friend, Harry Pollack. Harry, thanks for joining us on the program today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, David. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're absolutely welcome anytime. So before the break, we were talking about how Trump is creating this unstable world, and he's contributing to all the instability worldwide, right?
That is what we were talking about.
Now, Harry, riddle me this, riddle me that. Is Donald Trump in control of the southern border right now?
No.
No. Okay. So then the rocket launcher that was just found at an Arizona port, that's not Donald Trump's fault either.
Absolutely not.
From justthenews.com. And by the way, if you're looking for a good, what I consider to be a good journalistic outlet to get your news, I highly suggest that you pay attention to Just the News with John Solomon, and he's an investigative reporter. He's done, in my mind, he's done probably the best journalistic work in a really long time. But he's got a piece out this morning, and it's entitled CBP Seizes Rocket Launcher at Arizona Port. And I quote, "A rocket launcher and rocket-propelled grenades were headed into Mexico before it was thwarted by United States Customs and Border Protection in Nogales, Arizona. CBP explained that the weapons taken on December 28th would likely be used to support drug cartels. Great interception, Port Director Michael Humphreys tweeted on Tuesday. CBP officers, and I'm quoting here, were working outbound operations at the Nogales POE, seized a rocket launcher and 2 rocket-propelled grenades hidden in a car headed to Mexico. The cache was likely intended to protect the cartels and their fentanyl distribution or their production labs in Mexico. The confiscation comes at a time when President-elect Donald Trump is vowing for major policy changes at the border, including dubbing the cartels as terrorist organizations, according to Reuters. The decision to escalate what the cartels are classified as could signal a change in strategy. Now, this is a case of arms being traveling from the United States into Mexico. And most of the time, we think of the problems at the border as things coming from Mexico into the United States.
That's right.
But, Harry, have you ever tried to buy a rocket launcher?
I have not.
Neither have I.
It'd be kind of cool, though, if we could.
Well, I think we'd probably get arrested, but my guess is it would be pretty difficult to buy a rocket launcher.
I think you're right.
So where did it come from, do you suppose?
Well, black market, military base, Biden administration.
Well, and I think that it's more a question of what allowed that to enter the country. Now, I mean, there's no doubt that there's a black market for all sorts of arms and drugs and you name it. And I do think that a lot of that comes from our northern border, which incidentally is not that far from Sheridan, Wyoming. I mean, we're 20, 30 miles from the Montana border.
18 miles as the crow flies to the Montana border.
Oh, right, which is the Crow Reservation, right?
Correct.
And we have
no pun intended.
yeah. And we have documented cases of the cartel operating on the Crow Reservation. I've heard from multiple sources that there is absolutely cartel operations involvement on both the Wind River Reservation and the Crow Reservation. So if the cartels are operating that close to Wyoming and in the United States, my guess is it would be pretty easy for them to move arms, from the northern border into the United States, or from the United States to the southern border, through the southern border.
Sure.
So, I mean, thank God that Trump is creating more instability and is going to shore up the southern border. By the way, did you hear about them selling off the border materials?
I heard that there was an injunction placed by the courts to prevent the sale of materials that were already purchased by the United States in the Trump era to shore up the southern border.
Now, I actually went onto that auction site, and the starting bid for one of those panels, I mean, panels is probably the wrong word, but I mean, they're gigantic. But the starting bid was $5.
No kidding.
No kidding, man. I was half tempted to just bid for $5 and just to see if I could buy.
See what happened?
Yeah, man. Not that I would be able to go pick it up or anything. But it's ridiculous that the Biden administration is actively trying to do everything that they can to. The term I would use is hogtie the Trump administration. I mean, there's a lot of different things they're doing. Just yesterday, I saw a piece. Maybe it was on Breitbart or Fox News. Probably Fox News, where the Biden administration is trying to ban cigarettes, or at least ban the nicotine in them. Did you see that one?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, that whole prohibition thing worked so well that Democrats thought they'd try to do it with cigarettes. But everything, banning the offshore drilling of natural gas and oil off the shore of the United States.
Yep, heard that. That's an executive order.
Yep.
Which I know as soon as, well, I've already heard Trump say as soon as he gets into office, that's one of the first things he's doing is reversing that.
I want to see the stack.
Drill, baby, drill, as he put it.
Exactly right. I want to see the stack of executive orders that are sitting on his desk on January 20th.
Oh, heck yeah.
I mean, it's probably going to fill up the whole room. Do you remember seeing the, God, when was it? Maybe a year after Trump was elected, maybe it was 2 years, but they had a photo op with a huge stack of paper representing all of the regulations that they had cut. And I mean, this stack of paper was like 10 foot long and like 5 foot high of all the regulations that they had done away with. And I think that, I know that that's one of the first things that Donald Trump is going to do. He's going to walk into the Oval Office, pull out his Sharpie and just start signing. Absolutely, he should.
I hope so.
All right, so let's see here. What else do we have in the stack of stuff? Now, this is an interesting article. Again, another one from justthenews.com. And this one, Harry, I think you'll be able to weigh in on this. Oh, by the way, the phone lines are open if you want to be part of the program. The phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989, 307-374-8989. From justthenews.com. And Harry, I want you to weigh in on this one. Because, I mean, you're heavily involved with the Sheridan Republican Party, so I think you probably got some insight here.
Okay.
The headline is, Texas House Speaker race split between hard conservatives and establishment Republicans. And I quote, the Texas House Speaker race has turned into a battle between hard conservative and establishment Republicans, with the top state GOP officials fighting against the latter group. The Texas House Republicans are split over who to vote for in the speaker race later this month, despite the caucus nominating the more conservative candidate. This has led to state Republican leaders threatening primary challenges for any member who does not support the GOP-nominated legislator. Let's see here. A simple majority is required. Let's see here. I'm trying to find out. Basically, without reading the whole darn article, Texas has a similar problem to Wyoming, or the problem that we used to have. We still do in the Senate. But anyway, establishment Republicans have been in control of the Texas legislature for a really long time, even though, I mean, they've passed some pretty conservative stuff, abortion bills, but really it's been the lefties that have been in control. Similarly, in the Wyoming legislature, I don't think in the past, and Chuck Gray and I were talking about this during our interview, that I don't think that conservatives have ever been in power in Wyoming, ever. And so it sets up a battle between establishment types, liberal redcoat Republicans, and conservatives. And so, I mean, Harry, describe this battle for me. I mean, you've got some experience in the Sheridan Republican Party. There's a bunch of redcoats in Sheridan County that they were in power for a long time. Now they're not. So what's that battle look like? Try to characterize that for me.
Well, I guess where I would start with is at the lowest levels of office, your school districts, your city councils, your county commissions. There seemed to be an adage of, if you do a good job, we'll vote for you. Now that you're in office, we might as well keep you there. Problem is, people aren't paying attention, allowing other folks to come in, not necessarily do conservative legislation, and basically taking laws and rights away from us. Now that we have a majority in the House, and we could have had a better majority in the Senate with a leader where, how do you put it? I don't know if you want to even go down this rabbit hole.
Sure, why not?
When you have a leader like Bo Biteman coming in and basically giving all the chair positions to liberals, so that anything that could possibly get done in the House, once it gets to the Senate, it's going to disappear. It's going to get thrown in a can, put in a desk. It's just going to go away. And for the next 2 years, we're probably not going to get a lot of work done, when we had an opportunity to elect a whole bunch of conservatives into the state of Wyoming, into the legislature, and now our hands are tied.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's almost like a game of, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That conservatives, gain power we definitely have power in the House of Representatives, and we could have had power in the Senate, but instead, a deal was struck with establishment types, and now you have 7 out of the 10 committees in the Senate that are controlled by really, really liberal people. I think probably the worst one is Health and Labor. And we're talking about the Wyoming legislature right now. But the worst one is Health and Labor. That's where all the anti-abortion bills go. It's chaired by Eric Barlow, who is absolutely pro-choice. There's Charlie Scott on that committee. He's pro-choice. And I mean, why would you select a liberal Republican to be in charge of abortion bills? I mean, it makes no sense unless, of course, you had to make that deal to get a vote.
Or there was something else behind the scenes, pocket filling, what have you. Promises were made. Who knows? It's really hard to say.
Well, I think this is the problem that conservatives fall into all the time. That we make deals and we expect that those deals are going to be honored, but we forget who we're actually dealing with. People who have a very much a liberal voting record, like Eric Barlow. I would have to look it up, but I would say he probably votes with the Democrats around 80% of the time. At least he did when he was in the House of Representatives. Tara Nethercott is another good one. She's the majority floor leader. She votes with the Democrats in the mid to high 70 percentile. So we make deals with liberal Republicans, and we expect that those deals are going to be honored. And wouldn't you know it, the Democrats do what they always, the Republican establishment people do what they always do.
Go back on the word.
Go back on their word. And I think that's exactly what's happening.
Or the term I used to use in sales is burn and turn.
Explain that for me.
Well, I had a philosophy when I started sales some 30 plus years ago. I wanted to build relationships for life. When I got into the car sales business early on, you saw salespeople that would come in and they'd cherry pick you. They'd size you up. Are you a buyer? Are you just here to kick the tires? But they didn't really care about you as an individual. All they cared about was that commission check. Well, it's the same thing in politics. Okay. If I can get something for nothing, then that's what your liberal establishment is doing. Conservatives have a different approach. They want to, for lack of a better word, and this is probably a negative way to say this, is they get a win, they pat themselves on the back, then they go home. That's not what they should be doing. They should be staying in it, staying in the fight, working hard, and striving for that next chapter, that next rung on the ladder. We had an opportunity. We had great voter turnout. In fact, some of the best turnout that Wyoming's had in a long time. And unfortunately, it's we're on, as you said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Well, and the narrative that's being pushed, at least in the Senate, the Senate and the House, it's 2 totally different situations. But the narrative I've been hearing in the Senate is, well, we have 3 committees. That's all we need. We can push all of our bills through those 3 committees. Well, first of all, I don't think that that's possible. I mean, we're looking at a session that's probably going to have, I would say a conservative estimate, probably 600 different pieces of legislation. And you've only got 3 committees.
That's hard to do.
That's hard to do.
And actually, I heard that it might be a minimum of 600 bills, up to 1,000 this session.
Man, that would be a ton.
Which is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So anyway, I mean, it's always a struggle between like the liberal establishment and conservatives. And one thing that we can't do, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Harry, is that we can't get a win and then go home.
Right. I
mean, that's what we did in 2016. Yay, Donald Trump wins. And, now we can all back off. We can go play our golf and go fishing. When in reality, what we should have done is doubled down. It's what conservatives always do. We take a win and then we sit down and we don't keep fighting. See, Democrats, they do the opposite.
They just keep in the fight.
They keep in the fight. We'll finish up after the break. Christmas is over, and all of the fun holiday cheer has been had. And what are we all left with? Frigid Wyoming weather. Below freezing temperatures that you still have to go out in. That's right, you do have to go back to work at one point or another. And not to scare you, but think about this. Every single morning, you get to scrape the ice off of your windshield. Now, while I can't do anything with that, I can make sure that your feet stay nice and toasty warm while you're doing it. All you have to do is order a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. And to get you a pair of them, go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Wyoming is one of the most sought-after places to live. There's a lot of people that want to move to our great state. And if you're thinking about selling your house to one of them, you need a real estate agent that you can trust. That agent is Rebecca Bextel at Compass Real Estate. She's lived in Jackson for almost 20 years and has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market. Last year, she sold almost $25 million worth of property. So if you're thinking of buying or selling, give Rebecca a call. Her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Watch out! Cowboy State Politics is only going to get stronger. The program is only going to continue to expand. From every county in this state to every state in this nation, it's Cowboy State Politics. Welcome back to the program, my friends. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics Live, with my co-host for today anyway. Maybe longer, maybe later, maybe more. Who knows? Harry Pollack. Welcome again.
Well, thank you, David.
It's been fun so far. If you
It
want
has.
to be part of the program, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. If there's something on your mind that you want to talk about, go ahead and give me a call. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. You never know. But give me a call anyway. So I've got one more story left, and I think it kind of ties into what we were talking about before the break, that when the Democrats were in control of everything, pretty much the only thing conservatives had was the Supreme Court. And there were a number of what I think were absolutely correct decisions. One of them was the Dobbs decision on Roe v. Wade. I mean, there's nowhere in the Constitution that there's a right to abortion. I don't care how you look at it. It's not there. Well, there's Democrats have been engaged in, I would call it a smear campaign against the Supreme Court for a really long time. And they're focusing on the conservatives, of course.
Shocker.
Shocker there, right? Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. And there's a piece out today in, let's see, I think it was on the Federalist, but it's entitled, Democrats' Ethics Smears Against Thomas and Alito Are So Embarrassing That They Buried Their Own Report. And now, again, it depends on who's in charge. Because if the Democrats had won the election, well, then you would hear everything about this ethics report. But now that Republicans are in charge, and you have James Comer in the House with the Oversight Committee, and Harriet Hageman, she's a part of that committee too. I don't think the Democrats want to touch this ethics report with a 10-foot pole, because the ridiculousness of it would be exposed. But let me just read a little bit of it, and then we'll talk about it. And I quote, "The Democrats' entire assault on the court, and especially on Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, has ended in utter defeat. The Democrat-run Senate Judiciary Committee's 2-year partisan assault on conservative Supreme Court justices, especially on those two, are baseless ethics allegations, ended with a pathetic 93-page Democrat staff report replete with dishonest and false information. It was so bad, it was issued the day after Congress left town for the year and right before the Christmas recess." So, I mean, it's kind of like the Friday news dump, that the stories that the news media doesn't want you to hear about. They all get dumped on Friday. Friday programs are always busy because you never know what's going to happen. Now, this entire investigation was never about ethics, but about trying to undermine the Supreme Court because it is no longer acting like the left-wing super legislature handing down opinions implementing the Democrats' political agenda. Now, for a really long time, the Supreme Court was pretty much the judicial activism branch. They wrote laws from the bench, like the Dobbs decision, and it was all items that the Democrat Party couldn't get pushed through Congress into an actual law. So they used the court to do that. And we're in many, 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 many ways, we're experiencing the same thing in Wyoming. The challenge to our abortion bans. Those abortion bans are absolutely legal. And it was Melissa Owens, the judge in Jackson, that said that abortion is health care. And that was her whole basis for her ruling. So I guess the question to you, Harry, is these ethics charges against the court. What do you make of them?
I think it's nonsense. They're not getting their way. The rulings for the Democrats, for the liberals, is not going their way. So now they're fighting back with nonsense to say, hey, we need to get rid of these justices. Don't trust them. Don't believe them. They don't know the law. They're not going to follow the Constitution. It's out of convenience, actually, in a lot of ways as well.
Well, all right. So to the actual charges in the report, the Democrats falsely accused Justices Thomas and Alito of violating ethics laws by not disclosing vacations with friends and not recusing themselves from cases because of their spouse's activities. They're wrong on both counts. Alito and Thomas complied with laws, regulations, advice, and judicial conference rulings regarding reporting trips with friends. They were not required to report these trips under the personal hospitality exemption outlined in the law, no matter what the leaders of this witch hunt that Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse claim or wish. Those are two guys. Sheldon Whitehouse, wow, that guy is he's amazing. You talk about a rabid partisan senator. I mean, he's crazy. But anyway, when the Judicial Conference, which was established by law to administer the ethics laws for the federal judiciary, changed its rules in March of 23 and excluded from the personal hospitality exemption trips on private planes and boats, Justice Thomas promptly reported such trips. So it's a case of the justices complying with the law to the letter of the law. And then when that law was changed, well, they started reporting things. I mean, there's no ethics problems there.
Again, it's fluff. They're making something up to stir the pot.
Yeah, and I kind of liken this to, have you ever heard the canard that, Donald Trump, he didn't pay any taxes. These big companies, they don't pay taxes.
We've heard it, but when you have, what do businesses do? They get a tax. They have to pass that on to the who?
The consumer, man. Businesses don't pay taxes.
That's right.
Well, Harry, we're right at the end of our busy broadcast hour. Thanks for joining the program. I hope you come back. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and Harry Pollack is here too. And this is Cowboy State Politics.